It's time to fire Mike Norvell.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. This is the live show, the postgame show after the absolutely atrocious Florida State loss to the North Carolina Tar Heels. Tip of the cap to the Tar Heels. They were the far better team pretty much from the outset of this game. And to be honest with you, it's embarrassing all the things that I have written. I could have filled 2 pages in 10 minutes. I did like 11 things in less than 10 minutes that were major factors on why Florida State lost today, and it was easy. That is not a good sign. So I say once again, it is flat out time. Somebody needs to pony up, find a way. I don't care. I don't want to hear it on how much his buyout is. Norvell's got to go. My guess is somebody won't do it because the last I remember, it's over $60 million beginning of the season. I don't know what it is now, but it's just a joke now. The information that I'm about to showcase before I get into the chat, I'll get in there about 5-10 minutes into the show, is so ridiculous. A couple of the stats I've never seen before. I have followed football for 40 years. That is ridiculous. So without further ado, and before I even get into like the hardline stats, here are just like some things that I went through and combined, came up with, and some pointers and questions, whatnot in general. But this is the one in particular that caught my attention. I am going to cut this out of the video and I'm going to post it to my basic X handle. I might retweet it on the Locked On Seminoles handle, but this is something you can't make up. Early in the third quarter, I'm checking the stats, going through, and the Seminoles give up their 6th. This is early third quarter now. Their 6th sack. I look down, I'm like, well, where's Florida State's passing at? They were 1 for 6. The 33-yarder to Hakeem that set up a nice situation to score. That's great. They had that one completion. They had 6 attempts. They'd given up 6 sacks, and there were a few plays either Brock or Luke had taken off. So literally, in the second half of a football game, Florida State had given up more sacks and been forced to run more than they'd even had passing attempts. That's how atrocious the combination of the blocking, play calling, and execution on passing plays is for Florida State. This might be the worst offensive game plan / execution from what you would typically call an elite, tradition-rich college football program that I've ever seen. Clueless from the start. There's no one person that's fallible here. It's top to bottom. F-. That's number one. Number two, I don't remember this either. That was the offensive side that was horrendous. Here's the defensive one. I'm sure if you watch the game into the second half, Florida State's just like the heck with it. Hampton's really good. We can't tackle well. We're going to go put one guy in the middle of the field and put 10 and up. 10. I see that and I'm like, wow, that is bizarre. This is like something you see against an elite recruit at running back and you don't have the athletes. You know, like, if they throw up, we're screwed, whatever, but we're just not going to get run over. Well, North Carolina just runs dive plays, getting 6, 8, 10, 12 yards against 10-man fronts. 10. How is that possible? Unless your players are starting to quit. This is Mike Norvell's program. So as I opened tonight's postgame show, I say again, fire Mike Norvell. You hired the coaches. You made the missteps in a million ways with your roster, transfers and recruiting, retaining coaches that you shouldn't have, hiring them in the first place that you shouldn't have. It is on you. Worse, if you want to argue it, anybody in any way, shape, or form. In the Florida State administration, they went ahead and rehired Norvell to that contract. I understand why they re-upped him after a big year, but to my knowledge, they didn't give themselves an out. Let me give you an example why I bring this up. When Auburn hired Hugh Freeze, and obviously he had better track record in terms of just winning. I know he cheated like crazy at Ole Miss, but when Auburn hired him, if anything went wrong, they had a back-out plan. I'll give them credit. I read about this the other day. If they fire him, they pay out the duration of his contract, which sucks, but it's like in $5 million install. It doesn't just cripple them. It's not 10, 12 million. Like, it's way smaller. It's over time, blah, blah, blah. It's a little bit less or something. They figured out a back door for them. Has anybody looked at the contract or just flat nose if the Florida State administration did the same? Because right now, they are the laughing stock, not of college football, of any sport in the United States of America. Any sport in the United States of America. Name one that is more embarrassing than Florida State football after today. 10 men in the box, you can't stop the run. You have more passing plays that end in sacks or quarterback scrambles than you even have the attempted passing number, which was 6. There are a handful of runs by, again, Luke and Brock that weren't design runs, plus 6 sacks, and you were 1 for 6 passing for 33 yards in the third quarter. Pathetic. All right. Here's some of the other things that I want to note. Norvell's not alone here. Fire Adam Fuller. I'm done with that. He needs to go. Here's a stat for you that you can't make up. Last week, I get it. It's Cam Ward. He's a special player. Blah, blah, blah. Cam Ward 7 for 7 on third downs. It's Cam Ward. He might win the Heisman. Probably the front runner. Okay. But Jacoby Criswell, today, Jacoby 6 of 7 on third downs. 6 first downs. Your most talented position on the field, either side of the ball, is probably the secondary. Just raw athletes. You got a good DB coach back there, at least we thought. But on third downs, Florida State is the worst passing defense during their last 2 games in the United States of America. Horrendous. 6 out of 7 this week, and then when they played Miami, 7 out of 7. Come on. You can't tell me these players are bought in at this point. The touchdown to Omarion Hampton, that little, give Criswell credit. He flips it forward like a shovel pass. Okay. He turns around. He goes like, oh, there's nobody here. He goes through the entire defense untouched. This makes one of those bad movies that they used to do in the 80s that are like football movies. Bad News Bears baseball, the Little League team, look like an absolute Emmy winner. Shaheem Brown led the team in tackles, I believe, today. He's a pretty good player. He missed so bad on that play, it's not even something I can put into words. Horrendous. All right. Overall, I was screaming when I was watching the game. I put this down the list so I didn't start just blaring. This is the worst offensive line in major college football history, in my opinion. Prove me wrong. But here's another stat. I said it could go bad today and around 10 tackles for a while. That's exactly what the Tar Heels got, 10. And they called off the Dogs in the fourth quarter. 7 sacks. Some guy I'd never heard of had 4.5 sacks. Now, I know Mo was out today. That sucks. Darius there's no way he's healthy at left tackle. He's a shell of himself. I give him credit for trying to play. 0% chance that he should be in the lineup. 0. I don't know what's going on with that, but you could just watch. If you understand anything about pass pro, he's just vertical step and as slow as all get out. It's bad. And he's slow. And that's an athlete now. He's an athlete. One of my buddies is an O-line trainer. If he'd watched it today, he'd have fell out of his chair. Horrible. And then just the mental errors again. They've regressed, even from the Miami game. It's unbelievable. Back to Adam Fuller. Is it 6 games now? 0 turnovers created. That's almost impossible to do. Unless I've missed something, there are 3 turnovers created for the season, and we are 9 games in. So they are averaging 0.3 turnovers created per game. Really? I mean, even if you're a bad coordinator, even if you have just so players, talent-wise, they got better than that. I can assure you. I saw many of these guys in high school. I know where they were ranked in recruiting for a reason. Some of these kids had offers from Florida and Georgia and Miami and Tennessee, etc. How do you have 0.3 turnovers? That alone is a fireable offense as the DC. Flat out fireable. No ifs, no ands, no buts. Gone. The linebacker play today, the edge, the defensive ends were garbage at setting the edge. There were plays when they ran around the end, not only did the D end or the outside linebacker, not it, the corners and safeties, it was like a pasture where horses just running around free. Omarion Hampton's like, he had to have been laughing running down the field. For the game, let's see how many yards. This is not going to be a pretty stat. How many yards did they get? 55 carries for 289, 4 scores. The long was 43. They averaged 5.3, and that's sacks included. They had 1 sack. So they ran the most generic dive plays and stuff, and they had the trouble with the goal line. If it wasn't for the goal line plays, they'd have averaged 7 yards a carry. Oh, my God. It's ridiculous. This pathetic. Jacoby Criswell, solid quarterback, but he had a streak of 9 consecutive completions, by the way. It's ridiculous. He was 13 and 17 for 211 and a score 76%. He's a guy that it was just nobody coming into this. It's unbelievable. Let's see. I was listening to Norvell's press conference. This is the last thing. I'll go into a quick break and get into the chat. Norvell admits, like, from practice, like, surprised by how many times is he going to say that? Practice is not relating to the game. Because every time he does a press conference, we had good effort today. Thought we did good. Thought we were getting better. And then they come out and just completely laying it. Is he just lying even more than I anticipate that he lies? Like, this is just complete garbage. Florida State fans should absolutely, unequivocally be ready to, like, I would start sending in my tickets. I would mail them back to the athletic department, put the AD's name to, will not donate, will not come again until Mike Norvell is fired. Every single person should do that. Literally. Will not donate, will not attend a Florida State event again until Mike Norvell is fired. Send back your tickets. That's what I would do. I'll be back with more Locked On Seminoles. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even when those who aren't actively seeking a job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, back here on Locked On Seminoles. I've given some of my thoughts. I got some more that I'll share, but it's time to jump into the chat a little bit. It's getting going, and I'm kind of curious, to be really honest, with what's going to happen here. I apologize to everybody I missed. I haven't even touched it yet. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, let's see what we got. Let's see here. Mark, Earth the coach, Mike. Come in. Come on, Mike. Are you out there? We are not getting any readings. Yeah, that's well said, man, because this is just garbage. James, we can't block, tackle, or catch the ball. We are absolutely pathetic. James Fountain, 100% on the money, brother, because they are awful at everything they do, pretty much, other than special teams. Kicker and punter, Fitz had another long one today, and the Mastromano was really good. Those two guys, people in those spots, no complaints. James. Let's see. Now that's funny. Yeah, that's true. Brendan Green Anderson. This team quit today. Players are tuning out the coaches. No way Mike will get them back or get this program back. The damage is done and the word is out. What recruit or transfer would come here? You know, it's ironic that you mentioned that. It just so happens right here on my notepad, I've got something for you all here in just a minute. Probably going to make a lot of you angry, but it will help the exodus with the coaching staff. Wait for it. It's coming here in about 10 minutes on Locked On Seminole. Eric Edwards. Simple 3-word statement. Yeah, it's over. And he's right. Fire Mike Norvell. He sucks. He is absolutely a complete joke. The UNC running back had more yards than the entire FSU offense. Did he really? Let's see here. I think he might be right. Hampton had 172 on the ground, and Hampton had 93 yards receiving. Oh, boy. So for total yards, yes, he did. Florida State had 201 yards. God, that's the worst one they've had. I mean, and North Carolina's defense is not good. It's not. It's not sound. It's super aggressive, overly so. And they were running generic stunts. Generic. And Florida State had no idea how to pick it up. Stuff you see in 7th and 8th grade. Literally. It's unbelievable. They give up and don't even play. Yeah, that's from Bull Ranger. Yeah, you're right. There were plays that guys just went through the motions. They didn't even care. Next year, it will be different. From Wayne Hairston. Wayne, crack is bad. Seek help. Bull Ranger, kicker is the best player. That could be the case. Which one? The kicker or the punter? Might be the two best players. They'd be hard to argue. NK, the UNC quarterback Kirk kept turning the corner on scrambles against FSU's front. Who didn't? Hampton did. Criswell did. The Jolly Green Giant did. Florida State didn't contain the edge once today. Knights of Zurich. Florida State has given up. Do you blame anybody for saying that if you're out there mad about it? Again, if you missed the opening part of the show, here's all you need to know. There were plays where Florida State was in a 10-man front on defense and was getting hammered with dive plays. How is that possible? They're in a goal line defense, basically. Completely garbage. Bull Ranger, Bobby is turning over in his grave, 100%. Ain't no argument there, bro. 100%. Let's see. NK, Mike becomes the first Florida State coach to lose to Mac. Another one for the record books for Mike. Mike's setting a lot of records that are absolutely embarrassing. You know, like 5 years from now, we're going to make Mike Norvell jokes, and it'll be cool. But right now, it's not cool. So he's so bad. It's just pathetic. Brendan Green Anderson, the DNs are a joke. We can't set the edge versus anyone. It's 100% true. Not even question. Knights of Zurich, you guys give up 31 points to Duke. Who cares? Blah, blah, blah. Florida State seems like the only football team that's gotten worse over the season. They haven't gotten worse. They've gotten much worse. NK, but otherwise, your point is correct. Knights of Zurich, FSU hit rock bottom and started digging. Garbage. Garbage. That is what they are. Oh, let's see here. Bull Ranger, we have no passion. That is true. T. Hunt, bring back Jimbo. Oof. I don't know about all that. NK. Tired of hearing fans put their capes on for Fuller. He's not a good DC. Hasn't been for years. Yeah, fire Adam Fuller. He sucks. NK. UNC is bad. Poorly coached team itself. Florida State made them look like a top 10 team. He is right. They do not consistently do what they should in coverage. Have guys out of position, etc. Like Luke Kromenhoek he's a guy I know. He's a good guy. He was just insanely bad today. But even though Glenn had a few nice plays, he's still not ready either. And the O-line's so bad, it wouldn't matter if you had Joe Montana circa 1988. Wouldn't matter. So, yeah, those are just a few of the points. Roy Peterson Jr. I'll be in Tallahassee tomorrow flying my Hurricanes flag. You could fly a Little League flag and it'd be more important than Florida State's right now, brother. Warren Hester, this is interesting. Norvell just quit having press conferences. To be honest, I'd be okay with that because his are every week. It really is the same crap. Okay, because I would take a break after this, but he says, "Oh, today was good practice." It's same crap every day. Then after the game, after they get smoked, I didn't see from practice to the game. Well, you're condemning yourself and/or you're lying, and probably both. You suck. You should resign now because you are an embarrassment to Florida State in college football, and it's a lie. You are not a good football coach. You got lightning in a bottle last year. It's been proven. It is over. Deal with it, man. Florida State football is in the worst shape of maybe any program that I can think of in my lifetime that's a major program. It's unbelievable. More Locked On Seminoles after this. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even when those who aren't actively seeking a job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's get back into the chat. I can't imagine how next week's going to go. They play Notre Dame. Think it'll be close? Oh boy, that could be 70-0. Notre Dame needs style points to move up in the rankings to get into the playoff and get a good seed. It seriously could be 70-0. It really could. Stacy knows this team going to finish 2-10. I have a quibble with that. Notre Dame and Florida, no way. Florida State, worst team in college football, major college football it is. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. It's not a lock they beat Charleston Southern. It's not. This team is starting to quit. Why would you consider anybody a guaranteed win at this point? Yes, Charleston Southern is on the table for the L column. Yes, it is. Maury, Mike Norvell must be abusing drugs. At least he'd have an excuse because this is just unfathomable. Eric Edwards, I'd rather have Jimbo. Well, I'd almost rather have a mop head at this point. This is ridiculous. Like they can't do anything other than kick the field goal or punt the football. Maury, no way a team can fall off like this in one season. Well, it's happening. Maury, I mean, it's hard to fathom. I understand 100% what you're saying. But they are so bad, it's just not even something you can put into perspective. It's insane. This is just, it's incredible. It's so bad. I usually do a couple of shows on Sunday. I'm going to do one, just kind of culminate things. It'll be pretty brief. Some overall things that because of about what I'm about to say, go into it a little bit more, but I'm going to kind of let it rest because Notre Dame week, there's no reason to break Notre Dame down and be on some basic stuff because they're going to obliterate Florida State. It's important for them, again, to get style points. So I'm not going to do as much of that this week. It's going to be more about team, big picture administration. But they have fallen off, Mr. Maury, and it's insane. Bull Ranger, Norvell's, well, obviously, as always says, his press conference, he's not a well-spoken man. I'm a decent public speaker when I give a speech in front of people or I do one of these podcasts, but I'm better at it than Norvell. What does that tell you? He's a nice guy, but he's not really well-spoken. It's odd to me that that's the case. He's really not. Drugs is the only thing that can explain it, Maury. It might be, man. I don't know what the deal is, but it's pretty bad. Knights of Zurich, Maury, and yet, I mean, could it get worse? If they get beat by Charleston Southern, that would be worse. Here's a good point from Eric Edwards. And I said this right before the last break, and I'm steadfast. If you have season tickets, if you got paraphernalia in the mail, donate to this. I'm serious. I would send it back, address it to the AD, will not donate again until Norvell is fired. A to B, no ifs, no ands, no buts. And you have to follow through with it. Period. It is that time. Not assistant coaches, Norvell. Not a dime. Not one penny. Just flow. How about a couple of lawsuits? Maybe you'll get some wins. Well, I don't think they're going to win at those right now, the way things are going. I don't know if Florida State could win it at coin toss. They don't have anything going for them. NK. Mike is about the worst head coach in Power 4, probably. Maybe the only Cal head coach is worse. I think he's a better coach. He's not a very good recruiter, but he's a better coach. But nonetheless. What do we got here? David Evie. Not the LinkedIn jobs ad after he said Norvell should be fired. That's funny. It's just the ad I have to read, but that is funny. Well done. NK. We need to be sure to void his contract. Like how you going to void his contract? I would like to. I'd personally go to Tallahassee tonight if I could do it. That's not going to happen. After the season, the transfer portal will look like I-10 when people are fleeing a hurricane. I might as well just bring this up now. From talking to somebody that's not associated with Florida State, but from talking to a couple of different people today and yesterday, like recruiting, portal, etc., it's already active with like stealing players from other rosters, this, that, and the other from different teams. This recruiting, we're only just about a month from signing day. It's November 2nd, so 28. We got 32 days, so 4.5 weeks. Florida State, I would put it right now at about 50-50 on whether or not they sign 10 players. And they need to sign over 20. After today, I'll be surprised if, I think they got 11 committed, 11 or 12. I'm not sure what it is. If they don't lose at least 4 or 5 of the kids they have committed. Even prior to today, they weren't thinking about decommitting. At some point, it's got to be like, well, the guys that recruited me aren't going to be there. That's coming. Like a freight train. Plus, although Norvell went on and acquiesced about all this stuff, and I know at the press, go watch the press conference from today. It's ridiculous. I know how to do this. I've been down in football in life, and I know how to get back there and all the. I know what's going to happen. It was just ridiculous. It was like a Rocky speech. Dude, you're not the guy. Nobody's buying that. I don't know who it was, by the way. Shout out to whoever it was. Right before that, somebody asked Mike, point blank, do you think the players quit today? And it's obvious a lot of them are quitting. At least play to play, like it's half-hearted, etc. Credit to them. There will be players opt out of Florida State that are freshmen and sophomores after this year. They can't afford to lose. If you think it's bad now, wait till next year. It could be worse. And I'm not kidding. It could be worse. Florida young guys look better than the Florida State young guys. Category 5. By the way, DJ Wagway got hurt today. That sucks. I hate to see anybody get hurt. He's a good kid. I've met him. Hope he's okay, but it looks like that's a hamstring injury, so that ain't good for him. Might be, Wagway got hurt. That's possible. Like UF is down to a quarterback that transferred in from Yale. He's original. I think he played at Winter Park High or one of the private schools around there. That game is going to be one of the ugliest football games ever. I wouldn't touch that game if I was a gambler, and I'm not. But, there may not be 100 yards passing combined in that game. Mike Norvell for Florida State AD. The U. Yes, that's funny, pal. Knights of Zurg. Mike got that bag. Now he don't give a crap. He's coaching that way, ain't he? I mean, if you look at it, like, there's got to be, and props to Auburn again. If you didn't hear this earlier, they set their contract up, and it's looking pretty brilliant right now because they suck. I was at the Auburn game for a little bit today. I'm glad I left. That game was atrocious. Almost as bad as the one that Florida State had. I came home to watch that. Oof. They set their contract up. If they fired Freeze or got rid of him, their payments were smaller over time and it's reduced somehow, whatever. They set it up. Florida State, I don't believe, did that with Norvell. Somebody did fix that or whatever. Please correct me in the chat. I'd love to repeat what you said if you've got evidence to the contrary. I don't think that's the case, though. That might be the new norm because these contracts have gotten so big. If somebody really falters or has a scandal, it's just too much money to give an idiot. You know, if like you get in a big scandal, and I'm not saying Mike has, but if somebody gets in a big scandal, you got to get rid of them. They get paid to leave. This stuff's got to stop. It's just ridiculous. Yo Fly, I keep hearing that we can't afford to fire Norvell, but how exactly can we afford not to fire? This is a great point. Next season will be even worse with less talent. 100%. 100%. Matter of fact, I'm going to denote this and I'm going to clip this little part from this show because it's really that good. YoFly is right. You can't be in a situation where you just prolong the inevitable. So here's what I think. And I don't know who the power brokers are at Florida State University. There's probably 4 to 10 guys, 5 to 12, whatever, that make up 50% or more of their donations. That's kind of how it works at a lot of schools. Okay. Whatever that individual's name is, you got to start with whatever. You got to find a way to get him out. It's going to be worse. I say again, they will be lucky to sign 10 guys. And if they get more than that, adding B-list guys and C-list guys, not going to get it done. And the mass exodus after this season, I predict, will be massive. Prove me wrong on that, too. I say that a lot on this show. But why would you stick around for this garbage? If you're a recruit, a parent, a high school coach, why would you put up with this garbage? Is your player, son, grandson, cousins, nephews, uncles, niece, whatever, blah, blah, blah. If you have any affiliation with the player, why would you talk to them and say anything other than, why aren't you already working up an idea for an exit stage left? Why? If you have any pride about yourself, you would at least look, I would think. Doesn't mean you leave. You don't have to. But I think that 10 plus guys will leave, several of which they will not be honestly able to recover from. That's my guess. I agree, Brian. This is from Gerberio. I hope I said that right. It's time to clean house. 100% agree. I imagine even more recruits decommit after decommitting. Decommit after today. I don't know when. The timing of decommitments is goofy. They might get a couple of kids to commit and then 3 or 4 decommit. It'll be all over. But Gerberio, I think that you're right. And I got a feeling if I had to push come to shove, I'd say in the next 2 weeks, we see at least a couple guys decommit. That's my guess. Salah Agjaber, what if she went against Charleston Southern? I think that's a 50-50 game. Legit. That's my answer. They don't have any passion right now. And they certainly aren't getting much coaching. I don't know anything about Charleston Southern. I don't care to know anything about Charleston Southern. I just know Florida State sucks. Tim Abel. Mike lost the team, period. Yeah. There's a few guys. I think the young quarterbacks are playing hard. They're just inexperienced. Some of the younger guys at receiver and stuff are playing hard. But they're not any good right now. There's so many misreads. The confidence gone. Mike, I'll give him credit for this in the press conference. Somebody said, do you think the confidence? He goes, oh, yeah, he cut the guy off. Because, yeah, confidence is a big problem. No doubt. That's the one thing I agree with Mike from today's press conference. Silent Age 8. That's an interesting title. Arkansas Razorback and casual FSU fan here. What's the chance Florida State basketball is good for y'all this year? They're not going to be at all. Whenever the Hogs play bad football here at University of Arkansas, we automatically become a basketball school. Well, Florida State's combination of hoops and football this year might be the worst in the last 50 years. So that's probably not going to happen. Thanks for the question, though. Tim Abel, fire him. I'll write the check. If you write the check, Tim, I'll drive it to Tallahassee, brother. Mike Barcombe. Who would you like to see replace Norvell? This is where it gets interesting. I think this is one of the worst years, and this is just coincidence, for the quote-unquote elite coach that I've ever seen, if not the worst. Name one guy that fits all of the following prerequisites. Doesn't have some massive buyout right off the bat. You're down 90%. Is at a school that you can get him to leave, has a proven in all of the following categories. Proven record as a head coach in winning, game day decisions, hiring elite staff, elite recruiter himself, assembling a plan to recruit at the schools he's been at, because it's different for each school geographically, financially, academically. And he's good with boosters, doesn't have any off-the-field skeletons. The answer to that question is 0. And that doesn't even go into the tenure of their contracts. Let me give you an example. If I could hire anybody to kind of take over a program and prove his way up, I'd take Jonathan Smith from Michigan State for Florida State. Here's the problem. He's in year 1 at Michigan State. That buyout's going to be crazy. He went to his alma mater, Oregon State, and turned that program into something pretty good. Physical football, punch you in the mouth. They were competitive with everybody last year. A bunch of runts in terms of the recruiting rankings. Obviously, he knew how to coach, though. And he beat some teams, like the quarterback he got to transfer with him to Michigan State. Like Notre Dame made a run at him in recruiting. Other schools on the West Coast made a run, Pac-12. He got that kid to go to Oregon State. He had a ton of offers. So he's got at least some recruiting acumen. But he's in year 1 there. It's not very likely. Who's it going to be? Seriously, like, this is not a good year. Rhett Lashley, I like at SMU to a certain degree, but he hasn't been at a quote-unquote tradition-rich P4 school as a head coach. SMU's his first gig. I don't know. He's at a pretty good school that's got a lot of money. They got deep pockets. It's probably the better job than FSU right now because they got their hand in so many things with the ACC and with the renovations and all that. The oil money at SMU is dope. They got really good NIL. It's in Dallas, good place to live. It's going to be hard to get him. Who else could you get? By the way, since Lashley was the OC in Miami, he's got ties to Florida recruiting. That helps. I don't know if he's a great recruiter or not, but he's a pretty good coach. Right now, man, like, who are you going to hire? Maybe Manny Diaz would be a flyer, but I don't think he's a great head coach. He's not a great recruiter. He can coach defense. He's elite there. I just don't think he's a great head coach. Who are you going to get? Maybe you could get Signetti to leave Indiana, but he's like 70 years old. And again, first-year contract. Good luck with that. I don't think he wants to recruit like you have to at Florida State. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Lane Kiffin's got skeletons everywhere. I'm sure somebody's going to mention that. Dion has a lot of physical ailments. I doubt he's the answer, but that's what a lot of Florida State people want. I'm at least open to it. It would be better than a lot of the other choices, but he doesn't do many in-home visits for recruiting. That is an absolute automatic no. I've never even heard of that before, but those decide recruiting battles far too often. Matter of fact, Bobby Bowden made a living on that, on closing on guys not only he's supposed to get, but guys he was a long shot with. It ended up being in the NFL after playing at Florida State. So I'm a little leery on Dion. I don't know who it is. Maybe it ends up being some NFL coach. I have no idea, but I don't think there's an obvious answer, and I'm just getting started on the head coach thing, but it is a problem. David Eby, you think we can find a better coach on LinkedIn? How could you not? Get serious. I mean, can somebody do worse? Seriously. Preston Smith, if I'm running the booster or NIL, I wouldn't make Norvell work with Nick Saban or elite coach to help him evaluate assistant coaches and get the program back on. You know what? Saban would, that's a really interesting point, Preston. Saban likes that kind of stuff. He likes organization with management and just applying it to football. He's obviously really good at it. He's maybe the greatest of all time. If they called him, he'd come down from Tuscaloosa and help Florida State. I guarantee it. All the stories I hear about, I live in Alabama, I guarantee you that he would help in some way, shape, or form and set up other people. There's guys that have been at Florida State. Mark Rick would come up here in a heartbeat. He'd be a great resource. And there's a stopgap thing. If they don't know they want a long-term, maybe hire Rick for a year or so, kind of an interim thing. You could do something like that. You could do worse. But Norvell ain't the answer. That I do know. No excuse for the team's performance. What do you think is the crux of the problem? It begins at the top. And I'm not talking about Norvell. It's the administration. You may have to do AD and a whole bunch of stuff. That's the other ugly part. It's a great question, Deborah. But but I just don't see any way that you can continue on. Until today, I didn't even really think much about Norvell being fired. Now I'm all in on him being gone. That's how important. Like, they got to find a way to do it. They can't go into next year with Norvell. They would have a roster with 70 players and too many guys that shouldn't be here. There's going to be departures. There's 2 portals coming out, December and in April. How well do you think that's going to go for Florida State? Not very well. So that's a problem. Galaxy King. I've never seen it like this from Miami, Florida State. This is bad. No trolling. Galaxy King's right. This is a Miami fan. This is just blatantly. Is it comedy? I mean, it's bad comedy, I guess. Like the stuff that happens is so incredibly crazy. The stats I gave out today and stuff, it's just mind blowing. I don't know what to say. Woody Michael. I can't call Billy a clown anymore. Billy Boy did the best he could considering the circumstances. Yeah, Florida's down to their 3rd quarterback. I mean, their season's over. Alex Golish definitely need to get a call from y'all AD tonight. Possibly. You know what? I'm going to do a pod tomorrow. We're just going to talk college football coaches in general tomorrow. That's going to be the pod. We're just going to talk coaches tomorrow and see how that goes, because I need to learn a little more. I'll do a little research. I'll have a podcast up Sunday evening. It's going to take some time, make a few calls, and kind of just go from there, because they got to find a way to fire Norvell this year. If they don't, that'll be the Brian Smith Goes Off in the Florida State Athletic Department and President's Office podcast. A lot of screaming. Hide your children. David Thatcher, signed 10 offensive linemen. It's not a bad idea. Douglas Mann, I'm 80 years old and a Noles since 62. The last time the Noles lost 7 games was 56. I won't live to see another winning season. I hope that's not correct, but you never know, man. Football is funky. Let's see. Jim Ike, FSU equals quitters. Right now, it's kind of hard to argue with that. Canes, Smith won. Florida at least fought tonight. He's not wrong. Warren Hester, I'm starting to wonder if we can staff a team with players next year. It's bad. Yeah, I think that there's going to be a massive exodus of players. I really do. Kyle Wilson, he states Norvell is a broken man. Does anybody disagree with that? Alford better have a PI on speed dial. That's from David Evie. Preston Furman, go Dogs. Well, they found a way to win today. Chad Kinsler, will Norvell be fired after losing to Charleston Southern? If he's not then they're just not going to do it. They may wait till after the season anyway, but if he goes 1-11, they don't fire him, then the program's not serious anymore. Period. And I will flat out right after they do that press, he's coming back, blah, blah, statement. I will do a live show right after if they do that. They go 1-11, or even if they just lose to Charleston, so I don't care if they beat Florida or not, and they don't fire Norvell, it'll be a live show. Guaranteed. But Sean, what's good, Brian? Honestly, Norvell can go at this point. Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. I've said it 100 times on the show today. Fire Mike Norvell. Jim Ike, 1-11, mark it. Don't disagree. I think there's a really good chance that could happen. I've said it earlier, I give it a 50-50 on the Charleston Southern game. That game is a possible L. Was that true about the kid decommitting at the game? I haven't heard anything. If anybody decommitted, I have no idea. I haven't heard anything. I haven't even tried to look into recruiting from today, to be honest. Jimmy Sexton is 378-0 versus college ADs and presidents. They keep falling for it and offer ridiculous contracts every time. That's from NK. He's not wrong. The L23 GOAT. Who are we getting if we fire Norvell this offseason? What head coach? Honestly, that's the thing we've been talking. I'm going to do a pod on that tomorrow night, and I don't know the answer to it. It's the only thing to talk about now is just firing Norvell. There's nothing else to talk about. A little bit about recruiting, some other things that are underlying, but it's just, why hasn't he been fired today? That's every day's podcast until it happens, maybe for a year, because he is that bad. Probably going to do a basketball podcast in conjunction on Monday just to get my head out of the space of football. I need, you know what? Florida State owes me money for the psychology bill that I'm eventually going to have to get, probably sooner than later. Roger Bolin Jr. Need a better talent advisor. Yeah, Florida State's evaluation hasn't hit where it needed. Kane Smith, Lashes or Dion? Could be. I think he meant Lash Weave, but that's not out of the question. Did Florida State go undefeated last year? Maybe I was dreaming. That's from Preston Frank. They did for 13 games. It does seem kind of weird now, doesn't it? Maximus 13-18. FSU losing Charleston Southern on a last-second field goal miss. Just to remind us of old times. That's horrible. Lashley or Dion. There you go, buddy. Yeah, that's true. Diaz is somebody that could be. That's from Knights of Zurich. I don't think he could be worse than this. The defense would be good. He's a hell of a defense coordinator. But Sean, why not make the coaching changes like firing someone now? How can it get any worse? It's just about the math, financial math. Otherwise, you would. But it's a valid question. Galaxy King, Alex Golish. Nathan Cruz, what happens to keep climbing? Attitude was garbage from the beginning of the year. No argument. Hawk, Brian Hartline at I think he means OSU, maybe. If you want to take a flyer, that'd be interesting because he's a great recruiter, knows Florida well, good with the receivers. That'd be a wild one, though. What about prime time? It's a possibility. For those you haven't heard, this is, by the way, from Gregory Garrett. The concern with prime is very simple. He's got a major problem medically, had part of his foot removed, in case you didn't know. He does very few in-home visits in recruiting, which is a cardinal sin. You have to do all of them. He doesn't travel well anymore. How's that going to go with recruiting for Florida State, which has to recruit nationally too? Even if they just recruited the Southeast, it's a lot of travel. You got to do it. If you can't do it, I don't think he's the head coach for any major program. Just my opinion. Hire Big Pimpin' Coach O. That's hilarious. No. Kane Smith 1, Neon Dion. Maximus 13-18. This team staff doesn't deserve to play on a field named after Bowden. Don't disagree. This is arguably the worst season ever at Florida State after 13-1. Embarrassing. Louis T. Interesting. Hartline or Vandy head coach? I can talk about that tomorrow a little bit. Galaxy King, Dion, don't have a chance. I don't think he does either. Maximus 13-18. Did we really have former players telling recruits not to come here? I will tell that story now. Here's what I know, and it's just parts of it. It is true that there is a certain Keon that told somebody not to come. I don't know the reasoning, but he didn't think, and this is a recruit from the 25 class that Florida State was at one time looking at, didn't get, he's committed elsewhere because he didn't think he would play here. Now, the stuff for last year, I don't know. I haven't checked on that, but Keon did tell somebody that. I know that. Next. Hawk 1700. He gets players to come to play at Colorado. Not high school kids, though. It's different with the transfer portal. NK hate it, but Florida State may have to wait for better candidates. OSU fans do get annoyed with Day. They don't win it all this year, and he has a couple losses next year. He might be looking to leave. Just saying. It's hard, man. It's not who you fire. It's who you hire that matters. Jonathan Page. At this point, I'll take DJ back. Quarterback play is terrible. Maybe the worst I've seen. I told you all that was very possible. Kane Smith. Belichick. That'd be hilarious. Maximus 13-18. How many times has a two-quarterback system worked? Very few. Just pick the one you hope to get next season and roll with him. Interesting. Kevin Beatty. What about Alex Golish? That's a possibility. Again, I will talk about that on Sunday night show. Make sure you check it out. And by the way, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Truly appreciate you checking in with Locked On Seminoles each and every day. Please hit that like button, that notification bell, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're available on Spotify, on Apple, on all the networks that you can download and take your podcast on the go, which I highly recommend. It's what I do when I go to the gym every day. It's a great way to do it. Oh, this is a great point. Brian Ransom, 48th recruiting class for Florida State. Garbage. That is never something acceptable at this school. David Thatcher, Jeff Brom. He's at his alma mater. Be great, but I highly doubt that. Hawk 1700. He's going to cost them more money with their brand deteriorating because you are holding on to nothing. That is what I'm saying. Hawk, I agree with that. You ain't wrong, brother. General Shadow. Say things don't get better. Florida State could be in the situation Tennessee was in. They just couldn't attract a big-name coach and ended up with Jeremy Pruitt. FSU is in serious trouble. You're not wrong either. Jaywalking, 8 games, not one single 300-yard game. FSU isn't physical with tackling, blocking. I feel bad for these young quarterbacks and running backs. So do I. But it's true. Not one game with 300 yards. What? Come on, man. It's ridiculous. Between Florida State and the Dolphins, I'm sick of coaches named Mike. Okay. Jim Mike. I've scored more than the FSU offense has. Yeah, that's probably right. Hawk, you see proof of concept each Saturday of mediocre coaches getting the best from their players. I don't. David Thatcher, where does Florida State get the money to fire Norvell? That's a booster thing, brother. Somebody's got to pony up. No way around it. Maximus, not a 300-yard game since North Alabama. Unacceptable. That is true. Let's see. Maximus, North Alabama game was November 18th of last year. That's ridiculous. Let's see. Zachary Gibbons, we don't have the money to fire Norvell. That may be, but they got to find a way to get it. I know that. Florida State national champs laugh. Yeah. Kevin Beatty just rehired Jimbo. No. Brian Ransom, go get Matt Campbell from Iowa State. I'd be accepted with that. He's a very consistent coach. I don't know if he's going to win a national title, but he would bring stability to the program. David Eby, the snub broke Norvell as a coach and program. I wouldn't be surprised with that and his constant recruiting and coaching calendar that he is just straight up burned out and doesn't care. Jaywalking, Norvell isn't going to get fired. I mean, they just pay the last 2 coaches off, hire his entire fire staff, and go from there. Let's see. Brendan Keating. Can't we just spend the money that we'd spend on buying out Mike on players? That's a possibility, but you got to have somebody coaching, brother. Ian Coleman, Shannon Dawson. He's the OC at Miami. I don't think that's necessarily the idea that you should go with, but it's not a terrible one. He knows offense. Jeff Horn. Remember, he was a great coach last year. Y'all gave him a big raise that Bama flirted with. Now look at him. Thank goodness Bama didn't hire him. Don't know if ours is much better. Me either. David Thatcher. James Franklin is a bad game day coach, but a great recruiter. That's true. They better find the money to fire Norvell. That's from Parabellum, 100%. Mark Stoops. He'd be a great defensive coach. His offense makes me want to hurl, but he'd be a better situation than this. Glenn Schumann. I think that's another candidate that has to be considered. I'm glad somebody mentioned Glenn. He is the linebacker / defense coordinator for the Dogs. Really good football coach. He puts a lot of guys in the NFL. Brian, this is from Garrett PCL. What motivation do we have to watch any of the games the rest of the season? It's more, I mean, I cover it and I know some of the players, but for you guys, I don't know. I mean, I really don't. Hawk 1700. Norvell is just clearly going through the motions. This man has no plan for improvement. No argument. Zachary Gibbons. I think they do not fire Norvell because of Sexton. Help fix this or get your money maker is gone. Okay. Well, Kevin Beatty. Mark Stoops probably has a warm seat at Kentucky. Thatcher. Sorry, basketball be going to be worse than football. It could be. They don't look good. Gruden. Yeah, I don't think so. Hawk, if Norvell had won at least 4 games, could you give him one more? This is just bad and embarrassing for the entire university. Yeah. No argument there. Oh, I'm going to give a couple more here and wrap it up. The rest of the country is rooting against Florida State since they decided to sue their conference. That's probably true. That's Masala. Why are we surprised this team lost 63-3? And finally, Zachary Gibbons. The most likely scenario is they will clean house by assistants and say, okay, Mike, 1 year, go get it to the assistants. Last one, James Voss. Terrible team out there. it is true. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you once again to everybody out there. I truly appreciate it. It's horrible to have to talk about Florida State in this light, but I tell it like it is. I'm not here to sugarcoat it. If you need the happy podcast, don't come to the Locked On Seminoles. I am the truth podcast. I spit truth each and every day, and I expect you all to come back and see me Sunday night. Going to discuss once again just coaching. Some of the top coaches around college football, some assistants, just go into it that way. I don't really have any interest the more I think about it. And there's no reason to break down the Florida State, North Carolina game. They're god-awful. It gives me a headache. I'm tired of doing it. Let's talk coaches tomorrow. Thank you once again to everybody. I will see you again on Sunday.